How to play Estudio in C major, Opus 31, number 1 by Fernando Sor. And this is lesson 26 of the GCH Guitar Academy fingerstyle guitar course. If you want to learn how to play this tune, this is the perfect lesson. However, if you want to learn how to play fingerstyle guitar in all its forms, then this is part of a full guitar course, and you'll find the link to the playlist down below in the description. Now, I did publish a separate video with this tune in several times, so you could familiarise yourself with it. However, if you missed that video, here it is being played through once. Estudio in C, Opus 31, number 1 by Fernando Sor. Okay, let's start learning how to play this, and we'll start by taking an overview of the entire tune. And the first thing we notice is that this tune is andante, and this is the old way of telling you the tune's speed. However, it's very generous, so you can start this tune off really slowly before you build it up in speed, and it'll still be correct. At the beginning of the tune, you'll notice it's marked as 3/4 time, and this means there's 3 crotchet beats in the bar. So we count it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, etc. The next thing to notice is that the tune's broken down into 2 halves, and each half is repeated. So you'd play through the first half of the tune, repeating it between the repeat marks, and then you'd play the second half of the tune. Now, when you play the second half of the tune, the first time you play the bar that's been marked as 1. However, when you do the repeat, you ignore this bar and go straight on to the bars that are marked as 2, and this is the conclusion of the tune. Anyone who's been following my courses might have noticed that I always try to do an overview, and hopefully you'll get into this habit yourself, because by doing an overview you might pick up on some of those fine details that you'd miss if you just dived in and started playing the tune. So always try to look over it first before you start. Right, let's start with the first bar. And it might seem ridiculously simple, but there is a bit of a catch in the first bar, in that it starts on the 3rd beat of the bar. So for example, if you had a 2-bar introduction into the tune, you'd actually start on the 9th beat. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, play. Here's that being done with a slow metronome. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. Now here that is again without me counting. And here that is again, in case you want to try it yourself. Right, let's take a look at the first two bars of line 2, which are firmly based around a C chord. So all you've got to do is get the finger picking correct. Here it is being played with a 2-bar introduction at 110 beats per minute. Now, for this particular tune, it's a general rule that the bottom 3 strings will be covered by the thumb or the primary finger. Now, it's important me to point out here, because I've seen it in the comments where people thought this is a rule in general, which it isn't. You do find circumstances where the thumb is used on the G and the B string. And whilst it is unusual, it's not wrong. Here's the first 3 bars being played with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again if you want to try and play along. And here that is again one last time. Now, with the 3rd and 4th bar of line 2, we don't use the chord, they're single notes. However, it is important you use the correct fingering, and that is 4th finger, 1st finger, 4th finger, 3rd finger. And here's what that looks and sounds like. Hopefully you could see that it's 4th finger, 1st finger, 4th finger, 3rd finger. Here that is again with a 2-bar introduction, in case you want to play along with me. Right, let's bring together what we've learnt so far. So here's the first 5 bars of the tune. And here that is again with the usual 2-bar introduction. Right, let's move on to line 3. And firstly, we'll look at the first 2 bars of line 3, which are loosely based around the C chord again. However, you'll notice in the 2nd bar, you lift the 1st and 2nd finger off, but then place the 1st finger back on. Here's what those 2 bars look like at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again. Now we'll look at the next 2 bars and then bring it all together, because the last 2 bars of line 3 are very easy. And there's just one new thing you have to learn, and that's this symbol, which is an accent. And that means what it says really, and that is that you have to make the note stand out a little. And in this case, I'll just play the note with a little more force. Here's the last 2 bars of line 3 being played with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again, in case you want to try it. Right, let's hear what that sounds like brought together from the first bar down to here with a 2-bar introduction. Try and play along if you think you're ready. And here that is again at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. Moving on to line 4 now, you'll notice that the first 2 bars are identical to the first 2 bars of line 2, and they're the same as the first 2 bars of line 8. So we've already covered these. So we'll look at the second 2 bars of line 4. And you'll notice you don't put a chord down for the third bar of line 4. It's simply 3, 2, 1 on the top E string. And then for the next bar, even though it's marked as an F6, I would just play the necessary notes, and I played those with the 3rd and the 4th finger. Here's the whole of line 4 being played with a 2-bar introduction at 110 beats per minute. And here that is again. And I'll play that one last time, just in case you want to try and play along with it. Right, let's take a look at the last line of the first half of the tune, which is line 5. And the first bar, the third bar, and the 4th bar of this line are all simply a C major in place. So those 3 bars are quite easy. However, the second bar of line 5 has the F6 again, and this is more like a complete F6. Now, it isn't a complete F6, so to get the shape we need, we'll use the 2nd, 3rd and 4th finger, because you don't need to put the 1st finger in place, as we don't play that string. Right, here's line 5 being played at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And let's hear that one more time in case you want to try and play along with it. Right, we've covered the first half of the tune now. So let's hear that being played at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And we won't do the repeat yet. And remember, the introduction will be 2 bars and 2 beats, because we start on the 3rd beat of the bar. Here that is again with a 2-bar introduction, in case you want to try and play along with it. You might have noticed that strange note on its own at the end, and that will make sense when you do the repeat and when you lead from the first half of the tune into the second half, because that note links the two halves and the repeat. Here's the first half of the tune one last time, but this time with a repeat, and it'll be at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction again. Now, don't worry if you can't play along with these yet, as it is quite difficult and it might take a little practice. You can listen to this as a reference, just so you know what you're aiming for. Right, let's move on to the second half of the tune. And with this half, most of it we've already covered. However, the first line and a half, or the first 6 bars of the second half, do have a very different feel to them. So, this is what the first 2 lines of the second half sounds like. Right, let's take a closer look at this passage. And the first 2 bars are quite easy because you only need to place one finger on the guitar to play both of these bars. Then when we come to the third bar, we've got that partial F6 again. And finally we move back to a C chord. Now the change between the partial F6 and the C can be quite difficult if you don't use the correct fingers. And the correct fingers to use are the 3rd and 4th finger for the partial F6, and then the 1st and 2nd finger for the partial C. And you'll notice if you do it this way, you can almost get the 1st and 2nd finger ready before you release the 3rd and 4th finger from the F6. Now, it's worth practicing the movement between those 2 chord shapes because the same thing happens again on the next line. However, it happens more quickly. So, the more smoothly you can get that change, the better. And in fact, I think this particular change is the hardest part of the entire tune. So, it's worth spending a little time just practicing it. Here's those 2 chords being played in a loop with a metronome beat, with a 2-bar introduction. Really, I'd recommend you practicing those without a metronome beat, so you can slowly speed the change up. Here's the first 2 lines of the second half being played again at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And I'll play that one last time, just in case you want to try and play along with it. If you take a look at the third line of the second half, it's identical to the fourth line of the first half. And if you take a look at the fourth line of the second half, it's more or less identical to the fifth line of the first half. So these two lines are relatively easy for you to pick up. However, remember that the first time you play the second half through, you play the bar marked 1, and then the second time you play it through, you skip that bar and play the bars marked 2. Here's the second half being played through as you would before the repeat, or including the bar marked 1. Now here's the second half being played through as if you've been through the repeat. So in other words, you'll miss the bar marked 1 and you'll include the bars marked 2. Now let's bring the second half of the piece together. So here it is with the repeats at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. And here that is again with the usual 2-bar introduction, so if you want you can play along with it. Now let's bring the whole tune together and play the entire thing with the repeats at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. You can try and play along with it if you think you're ready, but if you're not, don't worry, that's quite normal. It might take a little bit of practice to get this tune flowing and up to speed. And here that is again, one last time at 110 beats per minute with a 2-bar introduction. At the end of this video, I've included some metronome beats at 90, 100, 110 and 120 beats per minute. So they're there if you need to practice with them. So I'll sign out now. If you've got the fingerstyle ebook, it might be worth you re-downloading it because I've done a lot of modifications to it recently. However, if you haven't got it, I will be doing a giveaway soon, as it's a special year this year. Now, if you're new to the channel, please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon, and then you'll be notified when I upload new videos. And if you found this lesson a little difficult, it would be worth going through the playlist, which is down below in the description as well. And this is a complete fingerstyle guitar course from the beginning. And if you're looking for more free guitar lessons or guitar courses, you'll find them at www.ebooksforguitar.com. And there you'll also find the accompanying ebooks in PDF format. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you'll be back again soon for the next lesson.